It's okay, we'll start. 40 minutes da. Not 20 minutes, 40 minutes. 40. 40. Anachi. Hari Om. Let's start with a prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanora Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mamadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mamadeva Deva. Hari Om. We are starting the Panchadasi text, and we have done that before in terms of chapter 2 on all the way up to middle of chapter 6. But we have not done in the chapter 1 because at that time we didn't start the webcasting. And now we are going to first do the chapter 1 and also any missing verses in the other chapters before we continue our series from chapter 6 on. As a just for an introduction, Panchadasi means 15, and this text has 15 chapters and has written by or composed by Shri Vidyaranya Swami, was essentially one of the Peethadipatis of the Shankara Peetham and the Sringeri Matham, and he's written many books, very prolific writer, and this Panchadasi, as we said, 15 chapters are in 3 sets of 5 each, and each set is called Panchakam, that is 5, and the first one is Viveka Panchakam, the second one is Deepa Panchakam, and the third one is Ananda Panchakam. Essentially, they correspond to roughly the Sat aspect of it is in the first 5 chapters, and the Chit aspect, Diva Panchakam, or the consciousness aspect of it, is in the next 5 chapters, that is up to 10, and the remaining 5 concerned with the Ananda Panchakam, about Ananda. So it is essentially Satchidananda, which is of the nature of Brahman. Vidyaranya was in fact one of the guru of the Harihara Bukkaraya, who are essentially the founders of the Vijayanagara Empire, and he was politically also involved before he became the Mathadipati. And he comes at the time of essentially around the 14th century, where the Vijayanagara Empire was getting started, and to fight against essentially the Muslim invasions. And he, being around 14th century, already there were the Shankara is around 7th, 8th century. So there were Advaita, and also there were criticisms or objections to the Advaita philosophy by other darshanikas or philosophers, and therefore Vidyaranya comes at a stage where the objections are also available at that time, so he takes those objections and also addresses in such a way, taking the scripture as a pramana as well as the logic for refuting those purvapakshas. So this text is considered as a very important text for the Advaitic seekers, because it clarifies, because what we need is a clear understanding, and it clarifies some of the doubts that may be lingering. So it is essentially for the manana pradhanam, is for contemplation or on the discussions to make sure that the knowledge is very crystal clear without any doubt. So with that background, we'll go right away into the text. and we will be taking the first chapter, as we said, and the first chapter entitled as Tattva Viveka. Tattvam is the essence or the truth, and the Viveka means a discriminative intellect. So it also demands, Viveka is one of the first 4 qualifications required in the sadhana chatushtayam: Viveka, Vairagya, and the Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, and Mumukshutvam. And therefore Viveka comes on the top as the first. That means we need an intellect, that's one. For understanding the truth, Viveka comes first. And what kind of Viveka? Here it says Viveka is that which distinguishes what is real and what's not real. So what is the Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Viveka. That's how Shankara defines in the Viveka Chudamani. It says Nityam and Anityam. What is real is defined as, that is Nityam, is Satyam. Nityam means that which remains the same all the time, unchanging, and therefore it has to be that which remains all the time the same, the Sat aspect of it, and that is discriminating that from the Asat, or that which is changing, or Mithya. So why do we need Viveka? If there are 2 distinguishing things, this is a changing thing and that's a changeless entity, so I can easily immediately jump on it. But I need a Viveka because these 2 together occur all the time. They are always in every knowledge. There is a changeless entity and the changing entity, and I have to use a discriminative intellect called Viveka to distinguish what is that which is eternal and what is that which is ephemeral. So therefore Viveka forms the very fundamental qualifications required for Advaitic knowledge also. So with that, we will go into more details as we go along, in terms of both logically and also scripturally the support for why this qualifications is specified. Let's read the first verse, where we chant once, where you can repeat, and also we chant together. So essentially we will be doing every sloka 2 times. Namah Shri Sankarananda, Namah Shri Sankarananda, Guru Padambujanmane, Guru Padambujanmane, Savilasa Mahamoha, Savilasa Mahamoha, Grahak Grasaika Karmane, Grahak Grasaika Karmane. Repeat it together. Namah Shri Sankarananda, Guru Padambujanmane, Savilasa Mahamoha, Grahak Grasaika Karmane. So this, obviously, when we are doing it, you have to have the text, and we go sloka by sloka intensely, and in the process we have to lift our mind as the description is provided. It's not for the learning as a subject, but also it is something to be contemplative enough to lift your mind to see the truth that is expounded there. And that should be the nature of the Vedantic study. And here, since this is a little bit advanced study, so you should have the background. Those who do not have the background, I suggest that there is an introduction to Vedanta in the YouTube under Acharya Sadaji. You can look into that, and that will help in terms of understanding the text too. Here it says, and the first sloka is trying to prostrate to the teacher, and the tradition is either the first you have to invoke the blessings of a teacher or the God, and or teacher in the form of God in the form of a teacher. See, that is being done here. It says Namaha Sri Shankarananda Guru Padambujanmane. So I want to prostrate to the teacher. How do I prostrate? Where do I prostrate? To the head I have to put namaskaram, or to the hands I have to put, or to the body? This, as a tradition itself, we put namaskaram to the feet. Why feet? Why feet? Because he's standing on, but because of feet is standing on the truth, and therefore he has understood the truth, and we want to know the truth, and therefore, and he's standing on the dharma essentially also, and therefore our prostration to the feet is only indication of that on which he is standing, and that's what we want. And the second thing is essentially is a humility is involved, where I am ready to learn at your feet. So for learning you need a mind conducive to learn, and tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. So Krishna also says, go on pranipatena, be flat on his. Why flat means? You have to be humble enough to learn. Only a mind that is humble can know or can learn. So here Namaha Sri Shankarananda Guru. So name of the teacher is specified here. His name is Shankarananda. And Guru Padambujanmane. Guru Padambujanmane. The teacher Padambujam is essentially lotus feet of the teacher. What is lotus feet? Everything we call it lotus in the description of Vedanta. Lot of lotus being used. Lotus is a flower which looks so beautiful, but it grows in the mud. So even though it is coming from the environment, the surrounding environment is not conducive, but at the same time it beautifies the environment in spite of the muddy environment around it. So in spite of that, the lotus is beautiful, blooming there, untouched by the dirt that is there in the surroundings. Same way, the teacher is standing in spite of the dirt around, the vyavaharika, the total transactional world involved, but still he is detached and not affected by the surroundings. And that's what we call why it is a lotus feet. All our gods are sitting on a lotus flower, and that's essentially implication is lotus itself stands for a discriminative intellect or viveka, and this is a tattva viveka. So Guru Padambujanmane. So that to that feet of the teacher. And who is the teacher? Here is called Shankarananda. He is Shankaraha Anandaha. Shankaroti iti Shankara. The one who is auspicious. He is a very embodiment of auspiciousness, and therefore whatever he gives has to be auspicious only. So he is Shankaroti. He essentially gives. In his very presence, everything becomes auspicious. So he is Shankara. So, and Ananda, he is the Swarupam of Ananda. Ananda means that which is happiness. And what is happiness is discussed in the third Panchakam, that is from the chapter 11 to 15. But Anandam is happiness. Any limitations causes unhappiness. And he is Ananda Swarupam because it is that who is always Anandam in spite of whatever is happening up and down. And therefore, Dukkeshu Anudvignamanaha, Sukeshu Vigata Spruha. So there may be ups and downs in the transactional world, but he is unaffected because he is Shankarananda. And therefore, he is Ananda. Therefore, all Swamis are put the name Ananda in the end to emphasize that they are standing on that pure happiness which is infiniteness, and that is what essentially they stand for, and therefore is called Shankarananda. So Namah Sri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane. So that teacher who is embodiment of the Lord himself, because infiniteness is Anandameva Anandam. Infiniteness alone is Anandam, because any finiteness causes the suffering, and we want to be happy. That's our struggle to be happy all the time, because we feel we are unhappy, and all the time everybody is trying to get happiness by pursuing this, and all the rat race is only to become happy only. Whether you are religious or irreligious, whether you are Hindu or not, what you are looking for is happiness only. But where do you are looking? You are looking for a wrong place. That's what Vedanta says. You are looking for Ananda, happiness, in the place where it's not there. And that is where the problem is. So we will never get it. So we go run after one object thinking that that will give happiness, but still it leaves me inadequate person and not full completely. I still want something else for me to be happy. So I am going after one after the objects and never ending, because I will never get infinite objects or object that is of infinite nature by any finite pursuits. So only way is that it is a useless pursuit. At the same time, I cannot stop it also. So even if you tell me useless, I still go after. Even after the class is over, everybody will be going for searching for happiness only. So why? Because I have resolved that I am unhappy by myself, and therefore I want to be happy by this and so on. But the teacher itself is embodiment of happiness, becomes he has recognized that happiness is not out there and happiness comes from himself. Therefore he is Ananda Swarupam. His nature itself is Ananda and he is Shankarananda, and therefore I am prostrating to him. Hopefully I can also get some Ananda from him. And this Shankarananda teacher is further described in the next line. Savilasa Mahamoha Grahak Grasaika Karmane. So Savilasa Mahamoha Grahak Grasaika Karmane. And this Shankarananda ji is always of the same doing all the time. Says his karmane is completely involved in this activity. And what is the activity? He is eating all the time. Says Grasaika Karmane. He is all constantly eating. What's he eating? Savilasa Mahamoha Graham. He is eating the sharks of delusion. Mahamoham is a delusion. Graham is the one which catches, and that is essentially like a shark. It is catching the Mahamoham, means completely delusion. So he's not only is fulfilled himself, he is because of his compassion, he is catching the moha, the delusion of the students who are approach him with complete surrenderance. Therefore, the Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. So his constant activity is involved is all the time the catching of the sharks that are really of the nature of Mahamoha, the complete delusion. And what is a delusion? Delusion is an illusion taken as real. So that plurality that is what is projected, the whole universe, and I take universe as a real, and that's why I'm going after the universal objects in the universe, but that is essentially the delusion. So we have an illusion and a delusion, two words. Illusion is a projection of the plurality. Delusion is that projected plurality is taken as a reality, and that's what he is going to catch. So what is going to eliminate? Not the plurality, but only the notion of the reality that I have assigned to the plurality. That's why he is Moha Graha Grasaika Karmane. So the teacher is helping me to go, not to recognize the reality, the unreality behind the plurality. That's how this has to be understood. So Savilasa Mahamoha. And this, where is the delusion? It is Savilasam. It's essentially in varieties and varieties of object that I am running after, like a rat race, and each object is different and enchanting objects, and that's why I am going after, and that is Savilasam. So Vilasam is essentially enchanting. It's along with the enchanting objects that are different of each type, and that is what is Mahamoham. Mahamoham is not only existence of object, but I am going after the object. Why am I going after object? Because their objects are, I consider, are the source of happiness. I don't go after the object if they are source of unhappiness. I try to avoid, but if it is a source of happiness, I want this, I want this, I want this. That is essentially Savilasa Mahamoha. And that Graham, that the terrible, the shark of that delusion is what he tries to eliminate, and it is Graha Eka Karmane, that is his constant one duty all the time. So Ekakarma means that's what he's constantly involved in this activity alone, nothing else. What is he trying to do? Remove the delusion in the minds of those who surrender to me, Namaha, who have surrendered to the feet of the teacher, to those who he eliminates. Those who are not surrendered, obviously he cannot do anything, because you need a viveka to do it, and the student has to be blessed by the viveka to discriminate what is real and what is unreal, and that is what essentially how he can remove the Mahamoham. So using the scriptural methodology, he is trying to remove the delusion, and to that kind of teacher, that is my teacher, who is essentially Shankarananda, I am prostrating. So that's how Vidyaranya starts with the prayer to his teacher, and in the next sloka he continues why he is writing this composition. So now we go to the second sloka. Tatpadam buruhadvandva, Tatpadam buruhadvandva, Seva nirmala chetasam, Seva nirmala chetasam, Sukhabodaya tattvasya, Sukhabodaya tattvasya, Vivekoyam vidhiyate, Vivekoyam vidhiyate. Together. Tatpadam buruhadvandva, Seva nirmala chetasam, Sukhabodaya tattvasya, Vivekoyam vidhiyate. So tat padam buruhadvandva seva nirmala chetasam. So here he gives the further qualification of that teacher, and his attitude of the student also being here indicated. So how do I approach a teacher is also essentially tat padam buruhadvandva. So this the dvandva means two, the pada ambudam. This is that lotus feet of the teacher, the 2 feet are implied, and that means asya, of the teacher. Seva nirmala chetam, by surrendering and serving the teacher, and nirmala chetasam, and for the purification of the mind. So seva nirmala. So why do I serve the teacher? So it's essentially not the teacher wants a service, but I have to serve the teacher. Serving means essentially imply the humility of I'm ready to take care of his, not only the personal things that are needed, so that he can devote his time. So it's essentially the Savilasa Mahamoha Grahayika Karmane, for his constant work of eating away the delusion of all the students which is involved. Since he is busy doing that, I have to take care of his other needs that are required, and that's part of the service. That is the initial service of the teacher. As I learn and establish myself understanding the teacher, then my duty of the service of the teacher involves propagating that knowledge to others who come with the intention of learning the scripture. So that's called Acharya Runa. Acharya Runa is obligation to my teacher. What is my obligation? Is my service to my teacher is propagating what I received from him freely to pass it on, and that's what essentially our tradition of Guru Parampara. So I had to not only learn for my understanding, I had to learn how to communicate that understanding to those who require the same. Just as I needed the knowledge, so others also need, and when they come with an attitude of learning, then it becomes my duty to my teacher as Acharya Runa and propagate that. And that's how the Guru Parampara comes into that, and also establishes a sampradayam, a methodology of teaching. So when I learn from my teacher, not only I learn the the nature of the reality, but also how to communicate, because you cannot communicate properly that which is Brahman, you cannot teach. Na vaggachati na manaha. Says, yatho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. That's what the scripture says. You cannot teach. Then how is it teaching? How is the Vedas are teaching? And that using the words properly to uplift the mind in the direction for the student to see. And that's how the teaching, that's what the method of teaching. You cannot go and read a book. If I want to know something, and I can go to a library and read. And someone went to Gurudev, Swami Chinmayanji, and asked, why do I need a teacher? So I can go to the library and read all this. Says, why don't you ask the question, go to the library and ask the same question? Because now you are asking me to come and say, why do I need a teacher? Why don't you learn that also from the book? So obviously a teacher is required, because this is not an objective knowledge that this is like a science. I can teach, this is electrons, protons, neutrons, I can communicate, because it's an objective science. But it is about the subject which cannot be objectified. And it is a Brahman which is infinite. It is aprameyam. It is not an object of knowledge itself. But how do I want to know? So it cannot be taught. But at the same time, says scripture says tad vijnana artam sa gurumeva abhigachet samit panihi sutriyam brahmanishtam. For that you go to a teacher to learn this. But it cannot be learned. But that teacher is that type where is Sotriyam. He himself learned by listening to his teacher, and also knows how to teach and how to communicate that which cannot be communicated by words, but using the words he can uplift the mind and turn the attention, and that's why it's called a Viveka. Viveka is develop a mind sensitive enough and that which can discriminate. So in this we are talking about the mental, the preparation for any subject. Mind has to be prepared. Whether I want to learn physics, I need a particular frame of mind. And some people cannot learn physics because of the mathematics involved. Some people want to go other fields because that's easy for them. Why? The mental frame of mind is different. And for that you need to have a particular training. And therefore, in all objective sciences, what we need is a sharp intellect is required. Sharp intellect or Tichna Buddhi, in Sanskrit called Tichna Buddhi. What is sharp intellect will do? So sharp becomes it can cut. Therefore, it cuts, and therefore it dissects and differentiates into this group, that group, that group, this phylum, this class. That is the avocation of a scientist, under what categories this belong. So classification is a very fundamental aspect of all objective sciences. Why? Because you need a sharp intellect to divide things and to assemble things. Within that, we again make sub-classifications, sub-classifications. And that means we are dividing into a smaller and smaller. So we are trying to find out with a big bang, or we are trying to break the atom by making it smaller and smaller so that we cannot break it anymore. That's what they are trying to find. And that is the nature of the sharp intellect. But that's all only valid for objective sciences. For subjective science, which cannot be objectified, you need a very subtle intellect called Sukshma Buddhi. Sukshma means subtle. And how do I get the subtle? By training your mind in the direction. And that's what is called the Seva Nirmala Chetasam. By serving my master, by the teacher, with the purification of the mind. The mind needs to be purified. So what is a dirt in the mind? Agitations in the mind is the dirt. And I had to calm and quiet the mind. A peaceful mind is what is required, Shantam. That mind is required for contemplation or for meditation. And meditation what? On the nature of inquiry. For tad vijnasasva, therefore inquire. The scripture says, therefore inquire what's the nature of the reality. For that I need a subtle mind. And subtle mind can only be done by purification. And the purification process is exhaustively discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. So it's called Yoga Shastram. Not only is Brahma Vidya, but it is Yoga Shastram. It is a methodology of purification. That's why Krishna devotes the Karma Yoga, where most efficient way of purification of the very gross mind, and as it becomes subtler and subtler and ready to learn, that is the mind that is recommended to go to a teacher, where it becomes much more subtle by seva nirmala chetasam, by serving the teacher, where the mind is completely devoid of all other avocations, and in those moments I am at least completely in the field of inquiry, so that no other distraction is taking my mind away. And for that only, whenever the mind is purified or not, if you can sit in a Vedantic class without mind running away, that means you have the required mind to learn. The rest of it is done in the teaching itself. But if the mind itself is running all over and you sit there but the mind is agitated, and those persons are not, obviously we cannot sit in the Vedanta class. One day they may come because of obligation to your friend, and next day they disappear with some excuse. And the people have priorities because I want to attend but I am not able to attend. This is a statement you hear. One day there may be some valid reason, but if that statement is made almost every day, that means his priorities are different. That means he is longing for something else, for happiness, and he still thinks he needs to do this, he needs to do this and all that. As a samsari, you have, as a family person, you have to do certain obligations, and as taking care of the family, taking care of wife, taking care of children, all that are important, but yet you have to devote some time for the study of the scriptures. And that's what is. And of course, for those who take sannyas, where they have renounced everything else and completely devote, and that's what the taking a sannyas, where I can now devote my time. So it's a question of trying to devote. This is seva nirmala chetasam, and that is purification of the mind. Only purified mind will develop a viveka, a discriminative intellect, tattva viveka, that which can differentiate the truth from untruth, and that is what is required. And sukha bodhaya tattvasya vivekoyam vidhiyate. Says sukha bodhaya tattvasya ayam vivekaha vidhiyate. So this, for sukha bodha, for clarification, here there are two ways to understand this word. Sukha bodhaya, for clarification of my own understanding, I am doing service, seva nirmala chetasam. So for sukha bodha, why am I serving the teacher, and why purification is required? Nirmala chetasam. Why purification is required? For sukha bodhaya. And tattvasya, for the understanding of the truth. Tattvasya, the understanding of truth, very simply, very easily, I am purifying the mind, and the purification is by serving the teacher. So this is his approach to his teacher. And also here, ayam vivekaha vidhiyate, I am expounding this viveka prakaranam, this viveka chapter, for sukha bodhaya, for simple, easy comprehension. So I am writing this also for simple comprehension. So this sloka also provides the requirements, that is, what is the nature of this text, and to whom it is addressed, what is the goal, prayojanam, and essentially Vishayam, Prayojanam, and the Adhikaram, and also the goal itself. And here we are talking about what is the goal. This the tattvasya. I need to know the truth, and tattvam is that tattvam also. That you are that is also implied in the tattvam, and that's the truth. Tattvam is also truth. And vivekaha ayam vidhiyate. This viveka chapter also is being discussed here in that sense also. So essentially, it is to develop the discrimination. This chapter is being designed or written for simple developing that viveka, discriminating of what is real and what is not real, and that need to be understood here. So with that, first two slokas are essentially invocation sloka, the first sloka, and the second sloka is outlining the purpose and why it is written. It also mentions in terms of adhikari, who is qualified to read that, to whom this is written. So when I am writing a quantum mechanics books, I had to state essentially who is qualified to do that, because he has to have certain preparations of the previous background has to be there for him to read this text, and therefore it is only one to whom this background is there. Here this chapter or the Panchadasi is being written to one who has nirmala chetasam, who has purified the mind. By how? By seva, by serving his teacher, and to that mind, therefore he is the adhikari. He is a qualified student to whom this knowledge will help. Others may study, but it will not help them because they do not have the required qualifications in order to unravel that viveka is not there to know what is truth and what is untruth. Nitya, anityam. What is that which is eternal and what is that which is changing, the ephemeral one. And because these two, that which is nityam and that is which is anityam are always together as a package, and I have to use, I cannot physically separate that, but I have to use in discriminating. The simple example is the ego, ahankara. Ahankara is what? I am, this is ahankara. A simple statement, I am, this is ahankara. Where this starts with the body, with my mind and my intellect, and all this I am. And therefore all the notions that I am this, I am this, I am this, and therefore I am not that, I am not that, which is not included in this. And I would like that also included in this. And what is this? This is an object, and I am a subject, and I am, this is ego. Because when you ask for who are you, you say I am this, I am this, I am this. All your biodata is only I am this only. So that is ingrained in so much that we are not able to discriminate. Viveka is required to discriminate what is that which is eternal, which is unchanging, and that which is changing, that is ephemeral, that which is changing things, and this keeps changing, and I am unchanging, and I am this is the very foundation of ego. Everybody says I am this, I am this, I am this, without knowing what I am, because I am a subject and this is an object. How can the subject is same as an object? Object is something that I can see, but I cannot see myself because I am not an object, I am the seer. So I have to discriminate this together, because I cannot say I am. Who are you? I am. I cannot say I am what? So I have to say something to qualify, but anything qualified is an object. I cannot be qualified because I am the subject. So this itself tells you that these two, that's nityam, anityam, that which is unchanging, that is I am, I am, I am this, I am this, I am this, or that I am is unchanging all the time, and the changeless entity is this, this, this. When I say I am changing, it's only I am talking about my body is changing, or my mind is changing, my intellect changing. It's not that I am pure existent consciousness that I am is unchanging. And he's going into that details in the next few slokas. So with these two slokas, the first sloka where the invocation of the blessing of the teacher is invoked, and in the next sloka, the second sloka, the outline of the text, to whom it is written, what is the purpose of it, Sukhabodhaya Tattvasya, for easy comprehension of the nature of the reality. And for that, Viveka is required, a discrimination is required, where not only in differentiating who am I need differentiate in terms of the world, and the world involves this, the waking state and the dream world and a deep sleep state. Therefore, I am going through complete states of experiences throughout my everyday and throughout my life, whole life itself through that. And in every experience, there is an experiencer and experience together, and I have to use Viveka to discriminate what is that which is changeless in the changing entity. If something is changing, there has to be changeless entity. Why? Because when A is transformed into B, and A has changed into B, there has to be something that remains changeless in that. That's what is the equations in the chemistry is called balancing equation. What is your balancing equation? Which is always a trouble for a lot of chemistry students. What I am balancing is, I want to make sure what is this side has to remain on the other side. Even though A plus B is becoming to C plus D, there is a changeless entity in that equation, and that's what called mass balance or the material balance and energy balance. Because energy and mass are somewhat similar or related, as we know from the relativity theory. Therefore, there is a conservation of matter from A plus B to C plus D, and conservation of energy when something changes to this, and that which is changeless entity in the changing thing. So whenever there is something changing, there has to be changeless entity. Now what is that in the changing things? What is the changeless entity? For that I need a Viveka, a discriminate, because I cannot separate that. I cannot remove the matter and then have A plus B to C plus D. I cannot do that. It is matter itself is expressed in terms of A and B, and now the same matter is expressed itself in terms of C plus D. And that is essentially what the chemical balance of equations. And what I am balancing is, I am using the law of conservation, that which is conserved, and that which is absolutely conserved is what Vedanta talks about, where absolute law of conservation is being propounded, and it is done by Krishna in the second chapter itself. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. That which exists can never cease to exist. That which is non-existent can never come into existence. That's law. Energy can never cease to exist. Only one form of energy is converted to other form of energy. Matter can never cease to exist. That's one form of matter is converted to other form. So transformation of the names and forms only, not the essence. And that's what Krishna says. From the absolute point, what is the essence? Is that which is pure existence itself, and that is what he is talking about, that eternal. And that's what we are going to discuss from the next sloka on. From that next sloka on, we jump right into the topic, and this chapter forms the basis for the all other chapters that follow. So if you understand the first chapter, you understand the Panchadasi also. So therefore, we will devote more time in understanding of this chapter itself. With this, we'll stop. We'll continue for the second class afterwards. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Now stop Panama. Oh, Ilama. Okay. Stop achu. Stop enganna. Inga stop pannu inga. Oh, illa. Live stream producer Ncast. Okay. He's asking yes. Yes, okay.